Hey everyone, it's Joy here and welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited today. This is a special video. I am part of the Card Crafters Collaborative Spring 2022 by our sweet friend Robin the Delta Crafter. So we've got a few ladies here that are part of this. So I'll explain that to you in just a minute, but let me show you what I'm going to start doing. I have got Altenews Through the Woodland stamp, coordinating die, and coordinating stencil. Now, I'm also going to do a fun foiling technique that I saw Simon Hurley do, and it's new to me. I know it's not a new technique, but it's new to me. So, I've got my piece of regular cardstock. I am prepping it with an anti-static powder tool. I'm using some clear embossing ink, and then I'm going to use some clear embossing powder. I'm also going to be using my MINC machine and the foil. I'm using Gina K's fancy foils to do this. So I have it on the one end. I stamped the image on the one end. I'm flipping it around and stamping it again because I need two images for my slimline card that I'm going to be creating. Now you're going to do your heat embossing exactly the same that you always do. Just make sure you don't overheat it because you need that embossing, that heated, melted embossing powder to be there to grab on to the foil. So I'm making sure my heat tool is nice and hot, and I'm going to just heat this until it's nice and melted and shiny. Then I'm going to bring in my MINC machine and heat that up. Now normally when I am doing like the toner foil sheets, I heat my MINC up to 5. But what Simon Hurley says is to heat it to 2, which is what I did, and it worked fantastic. Now, I will say that the foil that I used is kind of a fun foil. It's a gold foil and it has a lot of activity. I would say that I like how it turned out. I think it's pretty, but I think I would have hoped to have just done a straight gold, but I did not have that. So I'm going to turn that on to 2, and I'm going to get my foil ready while it's heating up. That little light will turn green once it's ready to go. So this is Gina K's Fancy Foils Gold Sequins. And I've got my carrier sheet that came with the MINC. It's like ginormous, but it's totally fine. I'm going to cut a strip off and then a whole nother piece because this is a long piece of cardstock. So I'm going to place my card panel in there, and this has that embossed powder, and then I'm going to lay my foil sheets on. And I'm going to run this through my MINC machine because it's ready to go. I'm going to peel this back, and it took the foil, you guys. It was so much fun. Now I will say in the centers there, some of these flowers have pretty detailed images, so it looks like a bunch of clumps. But I actually think because of the activity of the gold sequins fancy foil, I think that it totally worked. Okay, so here are the coordinating stencils. Now, I don't know about you, but I love these layering stencils, especially Altenews fantastic with these. I know other companies have it as well. But they've got these stamps, and then you've got the layering stencils, and so it's just so easy to make these beautiful flowers. So I'm using Simon Says Stamps inks. I am using Carnation, Peony, Seafoam and Surf, Sage, and Pine. And I'm using the small blender brushes to add these down, and I'm going to do that for both of these images. I'm going to do the same colors. So now this is a fun collaborative thing that Robin the Delta Crafter has hosted, and I was so honored when she asked me to do this. And we've got some beautiful women, artists, designers, just amazing, talented women that are doing part of this. I will have all of them listed below so that way you can go through. This is not like a hop or anything like that. It's just a fun collaborative. We're all doing a spring theme, and so you can just go along and enjoy some inspiration from all of these talented, amazing women. So again, I will have that listed and linked below for you. So definitely check them out. Give them some love. Please leave us some comments. Tell us what you think, what you liked about this video for sure. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Okay, so I've got my first color down. So I started with the lightest color. Now I'm lining up the other part of the stencil to add a little more detail to these flowers. And I'm going to come in with one darker color. So I'm just making sure everything's nice and lined up. I am using Waffle Flowers stencil mat. Your paper doesn't slide around everywhere, but because my stencil was kind of hanging off the edge, I just added a little piece of tape so it just didn't slide on me. So I'm just adding that next color. This is Carnation. And then for the blue flower, I think it's Surf, I think is the darker color. So I'm just getting that lined up. Now there's also some stencil areas for the centers of the flowers. If I didn't have the foil on here, I would definitely use those. I opted to not because it really didn't matter because there was so much of that gold foil in the center. And it doesn't look bad. It looks good, but I just added a little bit of the yellow. Oh, I think that was Lemonade. I think I forgot to write that down. I used Lemonade, and I just kind of ink blended that in to the centers when I was all done with the coloring. So this is super simple to put together. Like I said, it's so beautiful. These leaves turned out fabulous. I went with some darker colors. So I did Sage and Pine, which I think is the newer release from Simon Says Stamp. And isn't that stunning? Look at how green that is. I tend to do a lighter green when I do spring flowers, but I just am like, I'm going to try these darker greens. I saw something with that. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, that dark green is gorgeous with these really bright, beautiful spring flowers. So that's what I decided to do with this. And I think it turned out fabulous. So I'm just getting this second one lined up, coming in with that darker pine, and it is so yummy. It's such a deep dark color. And then just adding it. And I'm kind of being darker towards the base of the leaves and then a little bit lighter towards the tips. And I think it just turned out fabulous. I will be using the coordinating dies with this because I'm a girl that loves coordinating dies. So this is perfect. And this whole collection, this like bunch of flowers is so large that really you only needed two to fill up the slimline card. So here's that Lemonade. I'm just coming in and just adding a little bit to the centers of the flowers, which totally filled in any open cardstock areas for that. And aren't these stunning? I love how these turned out. With that foil, it's so, so beautiful. Okay, so now here's the coordinating die. I'm just going to die cut both of these, tape it down with some low tack tape, and something that Simon Hurley mentioned that I did not do. While your stencil is still on, gently dab off some of the ink that you ink blended on with a dry rag so it doesn't smear onto other parts of your images that you've already stenciled. Okay, so here's my slimline. I have my white card base, or my white card panel, excuse me, that is 6 by 3 inches. Then I have my beautiful green. This is from Cardstock Warehouse. This is the Royal Tone Evergreen. And that is 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then of course the white card base that is 3 1/2 by 8 1/2. So I'm just going to lay out kind of where I want these flowers to go because I need to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to do some gold heat embossing. Normally I like to have my sentiments popped up on foam tape, but I kind of like this directly on my card panel. And it's kind of just nuzzled in there between these little bouquets of flowers. So that's what I did this time, and I love how it turned out. Something I love about Altenews sentiments, they've got great fonts. Like, it's so scripty. So you have the Sending Birthday that's just like this simple font, and then you have Hugs, which is in this kind of scripty font, and I just think it's so stunning. So I'm just going to lay this down in my MISTI, remove my little flower images, and I'm just lining that up with my grid, trying to make sure it's nice and straight. I will prep this with my anti-static powder tool, and then I'm going to use some gold embossing. I already turned on my heat gun because I want it to be nice and hot. It definitely helps. It's faster. It melts your embossing powder faster, and it helps to not warp your paper as much. So I'm going to sprinkle on my gold embossing powder, and then you can see that great little sentiment. And then I'm going to heat that with my heat tool until it is nice and shiny. That's how you know it's melted. So you don't want to go too much past that. Once it's shiny, just kind of leave it alone. And then now I'm going to pop these images up with foam tape. Now I am letting these hang off the edge. Now this is already adhered to the green mat. So you could just adhere this to, without adding the green mat, you could adhere it to the white and trim off the edges. But I liked that it's going to, the flowers are going to go all the way to the green edge of the mat, if that makes sense. So when I trim off the excess, it's going to match up to the green mat instead of to the white card panel. And I love the dimension with these flowers. I think it's so, so pretty. And the green mat, you guys, when I pop that onto the white card base, is so stunning because it's so deep and dark, just like these leaves. I love how this card turned out. It is so, so pretty to me. And it was so simple to make when you have that stamp and coordinating stencil. So I have those in place. And then now I'm going to trim off the excess. And then we can adhere this to the card panel. I'm going to finish this with some Gold Fever confetti from Studio Katia, which is one of my just all-time favorite confettis. You guys know that, I'm sure, who've watched me a million times talk about this confetti, but it is so pretty. I was deciding if I was going to add something else, but I thought, nope, I think it's beautiful, and let's just leave it alone. Don't overdo. So here's my card panel. Again, this is a slimline 3.5 by 8.5. That's the dimension of a slimline card base. And then here are those beautiful gold confettis. I'm just going to add those around, and I'm just using some liquid glue to get those in place. I didn't need a ton of them, but I felt like just a few in those open white spaces just added a little extra bling, which who doesn't love that? So I'm going to adhere that down, and then this card is completely finished. Now remember, you guys, don't forget to check out all the other ladies on this beautiful collaborative that we're doing for a spring theme collaborative. Also, if you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and hit all so you don't miss a video. Comment, like, share. I love to chat with you. Thank you guys so very much for all of your support, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye!